What's happening, people? goukigod here, and in this video I wanted to discuss Modern Warfare Remastered and how I think Activision and Raven have been ruining the game of late. To be fair, it's probably not Raven's fault, I don't know that for a fact, but Raven are just the developer. I think in this scenario, I think a lot of the decisions, if not all of the decisions, are being made by Activision. So that's what I wanted to discuss in this video. I want to talk about all the different things that have changed in the game since launch. I want to talk about what they're going to be adding to it in the future, and why I think that's bad for the game. Now, back in 2016, I did a very unpopular video called Modern Warfare Remastered Don't Believe the Hype. I think that's actually my least favorite video on my channel. And looking back on that video, I think thankfully for the most part I was wrong. There was a lot of points that I made that were certainly incorrect, and that's definitely a good thing for the game. So for example, I said that the game probably would get stale pretty quick because people have already played it a ton. I mean, they knew the maps, they knew the weapons, so there wasn't really that much new, and the game would get stale, and obviously people are still playing it, it's still immensely popular. And I think that's got a lot to do with the amount of content that Raven have been adding to the game. Now, it's debatable whether that content has been good or bad for the game, but I think undeniably it has kept people engaged with the game, which is probably what they were trying to do. One of the other points that I made is that I didn't think the gameplay would stand up all that well as it did in 2007. Obviously, Call of Duty and first-person shooters in general have kind of evolved and grown up. Not necessarily grown up, but they've had more features, they've progressed, they've become better, more innovative. So I wasn't sure that the gameplay from 2007 was going to stand up in 2016. One of the other things that I got completely wrong is that I didn't think that they were going to add the additional maps, and I also didn't think that they were going to add the DLC maps. But having said that, they have charged a premium price for the DLC maps, which are going to launch sometime around the time that this video's come out. So I think unfortunately my fears for the game not being as good as we anticipated have somewhat been confirmed. So I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about how Activision and Raven have changed the game since launch, and how the changes, in my opinion, are ruining the game, and what they mean for the game long term as well. So what I've done, which I thought might be interesting, is I've put together a bit of a timeline covering all the different content updates since launch. I mean, there were warning signs even before the game launched that things were kind of going in a bad direction. So for example, when Activision announced that Modern Warfare Remastered would require Infinite Warfare to play, obviously made a lot of people unhappy, and it definitely got things off to a bad start. So obviously the game launched in November of 2016, and the first update that they gave to the game was just a basic bug fix. And it also added some new statistics to the combat record. I think they added some improvements to resemble the legacy versions of Dead Silence and the helicopter, so I think they weren't exactly like they were in Call of Duty 4 or the original game, and they made some changes to rectify that. So obviously nothing huge in this update, it was just kind of bug fixes and general fixes overall. The first big update came in December of 2016, and I think this is the second sign that things were heading in the wrong direction. So in this update, the 6 remaining maps were added for free, so that's Block, Countdown, Pipeline, Showdown, Strike, and Wetwork, and also the Winter Crash map was also added for free. There was a couple of new game modes added. There was Hardpoint and Gun Game, and also the Depot was added, allowing character customization and weapon kits. There was a couple of new melee weapons added as well. Originally they were thought to just be cosmetic, that they would behave just like the other melee weapons, but it was discovered that they actually increased the sprint duration over the regular weaponry. So basically you could run further if you were using one of these weapons. And the most significant change in this update is unquestionably the supply drops. Now, just about every news site that reported this claimed that they were supposed to be cosmetic only, that all supply drops in the future would be cosmetic only. I've read a ton of different articles and they all kind of word this in the same way. I haven't been able to find anything official though, so yeah, I mean there's nothing official that I can find that says that supply drops were supposed to be cosmetic and they would be cosmetic for all time, but the fact that pretty much every news site that reported this uses the same language and phrases it in the same way leads me to believe that it came from the same source, so it's kind of suspicious anyway. So the next update after this was in February of 2017, and there were 3 new guns added this time. We had the Kamchatka, I've probably massacred the name of that, the XMLAR, and the 44 Magnum was added. Now this is a fundamental change. Call of Duty 4 didn't have any DLC weapons, it's had the same weapons for 10 years, so adding this in is a massive game changer, and it really changes the meta of the game as well. It changes the strategic element of the game because you have to kind of learn these new weapons and what it means to the gameplay and how to counter them, and yeah, it's huge, and understandably a lot of the community were really upset with that. Again, there was a couple of new melee weapons added. There was new calling cards, new emblems, new characters, and a new section in the depot, or depot, however you want to pronounce it, known as Operation Lion Strike. I think this is probably the scariest of all the updates that we've had so far, because new weapons was something that was never promised, it was something that was never talked about, and I think had they talked about it prior to the game launching, a lot of the community would have had negative feedback and would have told them not to do it. I think also a lot of people may not have even purchased the game knowing that the core of the game would be changed so much over time. The next update was the March 14th, 2017 update, and that was the St. Patrick's Day themed update, which was notable because it's the first seasonal event, not just for Modern Warfare Remastered, but for Call of Duty in general. So the idea behind these is they're much like the Overwatch seasonal events, where there'll be loot that can only be acquired while the event is going on. So things like camos and probably new character skins as well is available. I think there was also emblems and calling cards, and there was 2 new melee weapons available as well. And interestingly, they actually nerfed the sprint duration on the new melee weapons in this update. So I think they've nerfed them back to what they're supposed to be. I don't think they have any kind of advantage over the vanilla weapons anymore. Personally, I'm a big fan of the seasonal events. I've been playing Overwatch for the past year, and I really like what they've done with that. It's a great way to keep the community engaged. It's a great way to offer rare loot and keep people excited about the game. Obviously, so long as the loot is cosmetic only, which having weapons in there isn't necessarily the case. But I think this is a good idea. I'm not totally in love with the Daybreak map with the leprechauns and the balloons and stuff like that. It just, I don't know. It doesn't. I don't think it works. But I think the thought, the idea behind it is exciting, and it'll be interesting to see what other seasonal events that they're going to do, because they have said that they're going to do more, so I would expect there to be lots more of these to come. We'll see anyway. And the most recent update as of March 2017 is the Variety Map Pack, which will be available for PS4 I think on March 21st. Now, if you didn't know, this is the original map pack that came out for Modern Warfare back in 2008. It has 4 maps. It has Kill House, it has Broadcast, it has Creek, and Chinatown. I remember buying this map pack back in the day, and I enjoyed pretty much all the maps except for Kill House. I don't know, it's just tiny and crazy, and I don't enjoy maps that are that small. Now, the difference between this DLC and the DLC back in 2008, actually there's 2 differences. The first one is that this one comes with 10 rare supply drops, which Activision are claiming is worth $20. But the other thing, and the thing that's pissing people off, aside from the fact that Activision are asking you to buy this map pack again, is the fact that it costs more than it did back in 2008. So back in 2008, this cost $9.99, I'm talking US prices here, and now it costs $15, which doesn't make a great deal of sense. Like, obviously you get the rare supply drops, but it costs them absolutely $0 to make that. And I understand that these maps look better than they ever did, they've been reworked, but to be completely honest, I don't know how much effort is involved in that, and it does seem very, very stingy. The other thing, which I think is a little bit sneaky and what not a lot of people have picked up on, is that these maps were actually free in the Game of the Year edition, which came out in, I think it was sometime late 2008 or sometime in 2009. So these maps were originally given away for free, so you could buy Call of Duty 4 and get all these maps for the same price. The other big problem, obviously, with charging people money for map packs is that not everybody's going to buy them. So they're splitting the user base. Now, I don't have exact numbers on how many people are playing, but I would think that there is less people playing the game than they would have had if they'd sold the game by itself. So the game already has a smaller install base than it probably could have, and then they're going to segregate this even further by asking people to pay for the DLC. So bearing all that in mind, it may surprise you to know that I'm not actually against the idea of updating the game to keep it fresh and keep players engaged with it and keep them coming back to play. I think modern shooters actually need to constantly grow and evolve in order to keep their player bases. And we've seen this with games like Overwatch, we're seeing it with Titanfall. Even games like The Division are adopting a free DLC strategy in order to keep people coming back. Now, on top of this, I've also heard rumors that dual wielding of weapons and also new weapon attachments is something that's coming to the game in the future. Who knows if that will be free or if that will be paid. And again, this is going to affect the meta of the game. It's going to affect weapon balance, gun balance. If there are new attachments, how do they affect weapon performance and all that sort of stuff. So I think when you start adding this sort of stuff into the game, it kind of becomes a new game entirely. And that makes me quite afraid for what they're going to be doing in the future. I think the game is going to be dramatically steering away from the original Modern Warfare roots. And this doesn't really surprise me, actually, on one hand, because the game is being developed by Raven, who are the guys that actually built Call of Duty Online, and that game is basically a smorgasbord or a Frankenstein's monster of all the Call of Duty games. Not all of them, but a lot of the old ones. So I think all of the Modern Warfare games, there's a bit of Black Ops in there, but it's kind of like a hodgepodge of different weapons and mechanics and maps, and I kind of feel like they're doing that, or they're bringing that concept into Modern Warfare Remastered. Now, I actually like the idea of Call of Duty Online. I think that would be something that would be awesome to bring to console. They could even try out the free-to-play model and see how that works, but making these sorts of changes to Modern Warfare Remastered, I think, is a really bad move. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say on the topic. I'm pretty disappointed about how things are going and how things look like they're going to be going in the future. But what do you think? Is there hope for Modern Warfare Remastered? Do you think they can turn things around? I mean, what can they do at this point to fix the game? Would they have to start giving away maps for free? Anyway, as usual, I'm starting to ramble. It is pretty late, so I'm tired and I'm going to go to bed. But leave me your thoughts in the comments section below. But otherwise, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'm out.